Hey guys, and welcome back to live stream number 6. Now, it's a bit earlier than normal, it's about half an hour earlier. There's just a few things I need to get on with tonight, so I just thought it was either do it early or don't do it at all. So, yeah, we're doing it early. Sorry about that. So, I thought I'd start off with a few bits of kind of personal news and channel news, and then we'll lead into the kind of topics this week. It's all about Ryzen again. There's not much else out there to talk about. For me, anyway, there's other things happening, but nothing really that interesting, I don't think. So, on personal news, the hunt for a new profession continues. So the hunt for a new job continues. I had an interview last week. I'm waiting to hear back from that. It went pretty well, so who knows. I might end up having to make a move or something like that. I'm not sure. That's really it. I'm still looking for a job, but we'll take what comes. There's not much you can do about it. But as far as the channel goes, so there's a couple of things I've been working on recently, and they are hopefully going to come out either middle of this week. Well, one of them will definitely come out middle of this week, and the other one will be probably towards the end of the week. I have been working on content. It's just kind of had other things to do basically, so haven't really had a chance to kind of do very much. So on Wednesday at 8 p.m, so that'll be Greenwich Mean Time in the UK, I'm going to do a live stream. So I'm going to stream a game. I'm going to stream Mission 1 from the Deathwing game. It's a really, really good game. I've been playing it a lot. It's a lot of fun. So I think I'll just go through the different missions. I haven't beaten the game yet, so we might get to a point in live streams where it's like I can't actually continue. So I'm either going to live stream that on YouTube or Twitch. So I'm not sure which. I just need to see basically which platform is best for streaming. I think it might end up being Twitch, but I'll obviously put out I'll put something out on Twitter or on the Facebook page just to let you know where that's going to be. I'm going to try and keep it on YouTube. I think it'd be nice to keep it on YouTube, but I don't know. It might have to end up going up on Twitch. So either way, that's definitely happening on Wednesday, 8 o'clock. Hopefully take about an hour. I mean, really, I could probably rattle through the mission, but I imagine I'm going to be chatting as well. And that's really it, guys. Haven't bought any tech. I've actually bought some of these guys. I'm a big nerd, so I'm really into Games Workshop and tabletop gaming as well. So I bought one of these, painted them up. So I'm getting back into my painting and things. I actually just had a game of Death Watch Overkill, which was amazing fun. So yeah, been doing that as well. And just other things. What else have I been doing? Went climbing for the first time in months, so I've kind of got my appetite back for that. I need to get a bit fitter. That was really good fun too, and I'm going to get my road bike behind me sorted out now that the weather's getting better here in Scotland. So that's really it. So moving on to the news, guys. I don't think it's going to be any surprise that I'm going to talk about Ryzen and the price leaks. So before I even get into the pricing, I'm going to put my hands up. I'm going to say I'm pretty sure the pricing here is bang on. These numbers, especially for the 8-core 16-thread Uber chip, what they're calling the R7 1800X, is $490 in the US, which is amazing. And I think it's real because, one, that's the price that was leaked months ago, and I'm assuming that price was leaked by AMD now. And also, these leaks are coming from retailers. So there's a site in Britain. I don't know about the site offshore, wherever that was, but the site in Britain, Kilotech, I've bought stuff from them. They exist. They're a reputable company. So yeah, I think they've added it to their database, and it just so happens that you can go ahead and search it. I've actually been to their site, and I searched AM4, and the SKUs came up. So let's face it, we're in the middle of February now, so these retailers are probably having stock shipped to them at the moment, or have stock currently, so they're going to know what price it is, and they're going to be ahead of the ball. And Kilotech's a massive online retailer. They do a lot of their business online, so yeah, they've updated their sales database, so it's sat there just waiting to go public. So that's why I think the pricing is real. Before I even get into how good value or bad value it is, I think pricing's real. I don't see why they would make this up. They've got nothing to benefit from basically saying that AMD are selling something awesome for hardly anything. I can't see the benefit to a company doing that. So yeah, I think it's real. They're in business to make money. This company's gonna, whatever they sell, they're gonna take money. They don't care if they sell Intel, AMD, whatever, Nvidia. They're not bothered. All they care about is selling stuff. So that's why I think, again, the pricing is correct. So let's get into the pricing, which I think is amazing. It's unbelievable. I'll just scroll. I've got to look at the other screen, guys. Sorry. So we're just going to scroll down. So this article here on KitGuru just goes on about the pricing. There's actually a better pricing thing on WCCF Tech because they give you a lineup. Here we go. This is the chart I'm after. So, pardon me. So here we go. Here are the SKUs and pricings. So this is pretty amazing. This is the pricing there that they reckon it'll be. So where are we? Let's go back to the KitGuru one because this talks about the pricing. Yeah, right. Okay. So blah 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 blah. NDAs, several Ryzen CPUs. This is the one we're all interested in here, guys. So this one here, that chip there, a Ryzen. So an R7 1800X for $490. $490 for an 8-core, 16-thread, cherry-picked, guaranteed overclocker, or whatever it is AMD are making these X series chips, for $490. Now, based on the benchmarks we've seen in the past that AMD have run and the ones that have leaked, this thing seems to have very, very, very similar performance to an i7 6900K, so to an 8-core Broadwell E chip, which retails for over $1,000 in America. And also, bear in mind that X99 is not the cheapest platform to get into. So if you go and spend $1,000 on that 6900K, which I don't think you should, I think the sweet spot is the 6800K. You're still going to have to spend like, what would it be in dollars? It's going to be $200+ for a motherboard. So it's $1,200 for the chip and the motherboard plus memory, which is going to cost you more because it's quad channel. So you can buy this, and I think this pricing is correct, for $490, so half the price of that Intel chip. It seems to have the same performance as that Intel chip, so it's half the price. And even if you get a high-end, whatever it is, in X370 board, I think is the high-end one for AM4, that's going to be a hell of a lot cheaper than an X99 chipset. Intel have always charged a lot for a chipset, and AMD have never really charged that much for a chipset. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think the motherboard for this thing, if you get like a really top-end motherboard, you probably could be hitting the $200, but even with that, like, that's $700. Rack up 32 gigs or 64 gigs of memory, that maybe takes you up to $900. So even with that, the chip completely maxing out the memory, the motherboard is still cheaper. That thing on AM4 is still cheaper than buying the chip from Intel. That's 6900K. That astounds me. That really, really does astound me. And then moving down, the R7 1700X, which is 8 cores, 16 threads. I think it must just be clock speed you're losing out on there. Yeah, it's clock speed you're losing out on. It's $381. Finally, the R7 1700, 85 watts. I don't know what that is $316. So let's have a look. What's this R7 1700? 8 courses. Now, this is WCCF Tech. So this is the chip here I'm interested in. Okay. The R5 1600X, 6 cores, 12 threads. I think 6 cores, 12 threads is bang for buck. I think on the X99 or X299, when they move to the next the next chipset for Skylake X, etc., I think 6 cores, 12 threads is bang for buck. It lets you game. It lets you do productivity really quickly. Because it's only 6 cores, it's a lot easier to overclock than an 8 core or a 10 core chip. So you're going to get a bit more performance out of that. Yeah, so for me, that's where it is. If you want to do productivity, a 6 core chip, I think is the way to go. That's why I got my 6800K. I've had no problems with that chip. It's amazing. So here, WCCF Tech have the Uber chip, the R7 1800X at $499. We now know it's $490. So this chip here, the one that I'm interested in, I think that's a smart buy for people who are fed up with i7s, etc., is moving up to this. Because the extra 2 cores and 4 threads make a difference to me anyway, definitely, in productivity. Not so much in gaming, but video rendering, etc., etc., makes a massive difference. So $259. So going on the pricing for this thing here, you say you take like $10 off that, maybe a bit more. So even say it's $250. So $250 for a 6-core, 12-threaded chip. The equivalent Intel chip, again, the i7-6800K, is over $400. So again, you're like, that's crazy. You're saving 25%. I mean, obviously, it's not as big a saving as the upper end. I mean, they're not going to be making huge amounts of these 8. They're not going to sell and make a huge amount of these 8-core chips. They're probably going to sell a lot of these 6-core chips at that price range, though. You know, that $250, say. What does $250 buy you now? Like an i5, I think? Certainly doesn't buy you an i7. I mean, for me, if the performance holds up for these things, why the hell would you buy an i7? That's just gone. You don't need what is the point in having one? But again, it depends on the performance. You know, we don't know exactly what the performance is going to be. So for me, that's the chip to buy. That 6-core is the smart buy. I can see a lot of people I know. I know a lot of people that work in creative industries, etc., etc. And I can see them really moving over to this Ryzen chip. 6 cores, 12 threads, plenty powerful. It can support a reasonable amount of memory. Couple that with maybe a B350 board, rather than the high-end board that still allows you to overclock. You've got a pretty solid workstation board. It supports NVMe, etc., etc. But you're doing it at such a reasonable cost compared to the offering from Intel. Now, I know last week Intel came out and said that Brian, I can't remember his last name, one of their operating officers came out and said that they're not bothered about Ryzen. They're not bothered about AMD or what they're doing. They don't care. We're just going to plow on with our plan. We've got our roadmap laid out. And, you know, Intel do. They do know what they're going to do years in advance. They have a, 5-10-year roadmap. Most companies do have at least a 5-year roadmap. I would imagine AMD is at the start of their maybe 10-year cycle, because they went through 2 years of reorganization, designed Zen, and never releasing it, and the same with Vega. But they've got to be worried about this. If I worked at Intel just now, if I worked at marketing in Intel just now, regardless of the products they've got coming back, I would be really worried about this. I'd be like, how are we going to sell? How are we going to justify selling chips for $1,000 when the opposition are selling them for $500? And it's got, even if it's got 90 to 95% of the performance, would you pay that extra $500 to get that 5% performance? No fucking way you'd pay that extra money. No one would. That's crazy. No one would do that. So I think AMD are win-win. I mean, I really can't see a problem with this. I think this is great. I can't wait for it to drop. I can't wait to get my hands on one of these 6-core chips. I'm so glad competition is coming back. This is going to be great for everyone. For guys on Intel platforms as well. You know, it might actually make Intel realize that people want more than 4 cores and 8 threads. Because up until now, there's been no appetite within their business to do that. They can just keep churning out the same old garbage year after year. I mean, look at what they did with Skylake. You know, they had the cheek to call Skylake a new architecture. It's bullshit. It's the same thing. Not Skylake, sorry, Kaby Lake. You know, Kaby Lake's basically Skylake, but a bit faster. That's all. That's great. The other amazing thing about this is, like, when I looked at the American pricing for this 8-core chip online, it's $490. And then I went and looked at the pricing in Britain, and it's around £360 or £70. Now, normally for Intel, it would be $490 in America, £490 in the UK, which you think, well, that doesn't add up because there's an exchange rate, etc., etc. AMD haven't done that. AMD have said it's $490 in the States, but it's 360 something pounds, or maybe 370 pounds in the UK. That's actually better than the conversion rate currently. So again, kudos to AMD. So I'm going to get this 8-core chip for the price of 6800K, or a high-end i7 like 7700K. No, that's a lie. 7700K is a bit cheaper than that, but roughly, that's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. Yeah, so very, very happy. Kudos AMD, well done. You played it well. It's really, really good. So moving on, guys. So talked about pricing. There's been some leaks. Apparently there was some benchmarking done with this 8-core chip. Unfortunately, the benchmarking. Can I get out of this? Yeah, let's do that. So the benchmarking, you have to realize that the benchmarking was done with a A320M board. So this board here doesn't support, as far as I can remember, this board doesn't support overclocking. So that might be holding the chip back as well. Remember, AMD's chip uses extended frequency, which does automatic overclocking, in conjunction with a few other things. So bear that in mind. But before you even bear that in mind, I would say look at these with a severe pinch of salt. You know, I've no doubt they're real. I don't see why anyone would Photoshop all this. I'm pretty sure they're real. People have the chips there. You know, they've tested them. People like Tom's Hardware, etc., etc. They will have done all their testing. So unless there's some sort of BIOS update or something like that, you know, a couple of weeks, a week out or something, then they'll redo some testing. But they already know where this chip sits. So someone's done some testing and they've leaked it, basically. You can rattle through these. I mean, it doesn't really mean like integer math, it comes out on top. Floating point math, it comes out on top, so it's beating the 6900K, etc., etc. Here we go. Let's go to this one. Prime numbers, it's a bit lower than the Intel chips. CPU mark sorting. It's just, again, it's like you can look at these graphs and it's great. Like extended instructions, it's brilliant. That's skewed though. That's really weird. I don't understand why the 4-core 8-thread chip's doing so well. Oh no, that makes sense because it's about core clock speed. Yeah, that's fine. This must be to do with one of AMD's, I can't remember what it's called, smart prefetching or something like that of data, why it's doing so well there. Compression, again, it's thereabouts, it's beating out 5960X, which is quite impressive because it's a 10-core chip. Anyway guys, so you can go and have a look at that. It's on WCCF Tech. I don't know. How much stock do I put into this benchmark? Not a lot. Not very much at all. I would say if you're out there now and you're still reading stories about Ryzen benchmarking, stop. Because the reality is, this chip's going to come out in like a few weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks. Best case, it might, oh no, so we already know it's going to be early, very early, March 3rd or something like that, I think. So I would say stop reading benchmark articles. There's no point, because people who have the chip and have done their testing, or who are currently doing their testing, are only going to be under NDA, so non-disclosure agreement, for another maybe week and a half. You know, videos about Ryzen's performance, official videos, you know, by people I respect, like Tom's Hardware, Paul's Hardware, people like that. Hopefully some of the smaller guys as well, like Tech City, will be coming out before it launches, because AMD want people to see what their product can do before it launches. And along with that performance that you can trust from people who have no vested interest, there will be confirmed pricing from these guys as well, I assume. So not only are you going to get a reliable performance review, probably about things you care about, like gaming, etc., etc., rather than these random kind of, although they're very interesting and they do mean something, these synthetic benchmarks, but to most of us, I mean, does it really matter how good your CPU is at compressing baseline loads? Probably not. What you care about is performance in gaming, maybe performance in some other applications like Premiere Pro, etc., etc. I would certainly want to see how it did in things like Firestrike or whatchamacallit, I can't remember the name now, my mind's gone blank. What is it called? I can't remember. Basically the benchmark where it, it's really weird, my mind has gone totally blank, where it just renders out the picture. I'd like to see that. That's a really good benchmark of multi-threaded tasks. Handbrake would be another good one. So I would say wait, I would say stop reading them, I would say stop worrying about them, because in about 9 or 10 days, videos are starting to get released talking about the performance of this chip. It's that. So you're going to know. You're going to know it's not going to come from AMD. It's not going to come from Intel. You don't have to worry about that. It's going to come from someone who has no vested interest in either of these companies, someone who's been, looking at tech and working in tech for a very long time, someone who's critical of companies and can be critical of companies, and also probably a person who, like me and you, would just like a bit more competition. There's not going to be any fanboyism. So that's a good thing. So I would say stop worrying about this. I mean, it was an interesting article to read, don't get me wrong, it's great. But if I was WCCF Tech, would I have published this? Probably not in the amount of detail they've gone to. And it would have probably been a couple of paragraphs, and then I would have just gone on about wait for NDAs to be over, because you're going to know. I mean, I didn't actually learn anything I didn't already know from reading this article. But feel free to go and read it. Just go to WCCF Tech, it's up there, it's no problem. But yeah, it's interesting enough, I think. But like I said, I'm quite happy to wait a week and a half to actually get the lowdown on this, to see how this chip actually performs. And I'm pretty sure it's going to perform pretty well. I think AMD might be onto a winner here. The pricing is certainly very aggressive, which is fantastic news. So, moving on to Intel. It was hard to find anything to talk about from Intel. So I came across this, Intel's 8th generation Core i7 8000 series processors. Apparently, they're going to be 15% faster than the 7th gen, the current generation, and they're going to be launching the second half of this year. So I assume by launching they mean it's going to be going into laptops and all-in-one solutions, etc., etc. We're not going to get our hands on it. They're not going to be selling chips. They're going to be selling laptops and pre-builts, things like that. Anyway, so that's quite interesting. 15% faster than Kaby Lake. Interesting. Well, that'll be. I don't believe that, to be honest. I can't imagine how they're going to do that. But anyway, that's what they say. And what benchmark are they using? Better performance on Sysmark. Right. Okay. So who uses Sysmark? Who cares about Sysmark? At least they've been honest and said what they're using. So 15% faster, and they're still using 14 nanometers, which is what I don't understand. This will be the third generation on 14 nanometer, which is quite unusual for Intel to stick with that node size for so long. For me, do I think they've made that many advancements in 14 nanometers? I don't know. They've had real problems with 14 nanometers scaling up in the beginning. It's obviously improved because of the base clock frequency differences between Skylake and Kaby Lake. Kaby Lake is that much better than Skylake performance-wise because you can clock it higher and you can get those really good overclocks up to 5 gigahertz, which is really good. Don't get me wrong, I'm not taking that away from Intel. I think that's fantastic. But am I super excited about it? Probably not. So unless they're sticking to 14 nanometers, but they're actually going to do a completely new microarchitecture, which they might do, and then they might do the node shift to 10 nanometer. I don't see how they're going to get an extra 15% performance across the board. I don't see how they're going to get an extra 15% performance on anything that people care about in games, etc., etc. I certainly don't think they're going to be able to get it out of base clock frequencies this time. I'd be very surprised if they're going to be selling chips that are, say, maybe coming out of the factory base clocked at 4.6-ish and then boosting up to 5 gigahertz, because then the expectation would still be there to overclock it to that 5.4, 5.5. I think that would be quite hard. They might be able to do it. They might just run really hot. I doubt they're going to be able to do that because currently Kaby Lake already runs really hot because of the really crap thermal paste between the die and the heat spreader. Yeah, if you've got a Kaby Lake chip, I would seriously recommend you delidding that thing and getting the temps down. So I'm a bit skeptical about this, to be honest. Let's see, 10 hour a while, kind of like blah 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 blah. Improve fin. Yeah, so I think see, to me this stuff all just sounds like the process is maturing, so the yields etc are getting better. They're getting used to building at 14 nanometers. Like improve fin profile, we got that with Kaby Lake. Improved channel transistor strength. Yeah, all these things we got are in Kaby Lake, and that's why Kaby Lake can be clocked faster than Skylake. So I'm dubious. I have to admit, I can't see how 8th generation, whatever it's going to be called, is it Coffee Lake? Can't remember. Coffee Lake, and then Cannon Lake's 10 nanometer. Yeah, so I don't see how Coffee Lake is going to be 15% faster than Kaby Lake. I don't see it. I think it might be maybe 8 to 10% faster on certain applications. But then I imagine if you clock for clock, I would imagine it's basically just going to be the same as Kaby Lake, unless it's a microarchitecture change. And I don't think they're going to do a microarchitecture change this time round. I'm not sure. Still not. Yeah. So here we go. Intel's 8th generation processors based on improved 14 nanometer process. So yeah, that's what I think. So there's still no architectural upgrade. So yeah, I think they're going to struggle. I really do. AMD are already processing stuff at 10 nanometers. So I think AMD are well ahead of the game. So far, they could still fall flat on their face. They have done in the past. I mean, all the way through the 2000s and late 2000s, although Nvidia and Intel were taking market share from AMD, if you look historically back, AMD were always ahead in technology, whether it be node size, memory speeds, etc., etc. They just didn't have the market base to grow the company, largely because they lost out in those all-in-one deals and mobile graphics deals and laptops, etc. It becomes really apparent if you look at the technologies at the time, then look at the Steam survey, and you think, well, why this makes no sense? And I suppose largely because it's only people like me or you, enthusiasts, that would care about things like that, whereas most people, when they get into PC gaming back then, would just go and buy a laptop or buy an all-in-one PC, like a pre-built from PC World or something, or wherever you live, and then they might want to start playing games more than casually, so they just want to drop a graphics card or something in there, and by that point, Nvidia were like a household name. So yeah, they just go and buy the cheapest Nvidia card they could, and that was it. So a lot of these companies grew like that. That's besides the point. So the guy, I'm kind of ranting a little bit. Yeah. So yeah, we talked about this last week. This is the guy, Brian M. Krasnich. Yeah, couldn't remember his last name. So yeah, listen, Intel, they're still going strong. Got to admit though, Coffee Lake. Not bothered. The only thing that's interesting about Coffee Lake, assuming this is the mainstream, is that the max, they're going to go up to 6 cores, 12 threads max on the mainstream platform. So I'm assuming that will be an i7 of some sort, which is good. They need to, because of what Ryzen's taking to the table. So guys, that's really it. It was a bit more organized this week, kind of less stress, etc., etc. Getting used to everything again. So if you've got any questions, I'm going to hang about for maybe a minute or two. So just fire them in the comments. If not, ask questions in the comments once the video is uploaded, and I'll get back to you. But I'm going to drink my coffee, and I'm going to wait to see if any questions come in, guys. Well, if there's no one out there with any questions, guys, I am going to wrap up the stream for just now. Don't forget, a couple of things happening next week. The channel's going to start picking up momentum again, kind of over the initial stress of the year, thankfully. So Wednesday, 8 o'clock, we're going to be streaming Deathwing for an hour. We're going to do the first mission in Deathwing. I will let you know whether it is going to be Twitch or YouTube in the future. And then Friday or Saturday there's going to be a video coming out that people have been asking for a while, and I feel really bad I haven't been able to get to do it. I just haven't had time, guys. And I feel even worse now that I'm kind of getting to do it, because it didn't take that long. I just didn't have access to everything I needed at the time. So, right, guys, have a great rest of the weekend, and I will see you again during the week. Take it easy. Peace out.